We're going to have some students arriving a little bit late. Two students actually told me that they will be logging in a little bit late. So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy to see you. I just want to make sure we have 12 students so far. We're still missing a few. But I will ask you today to get ready, because the topic of this week for our intercultural leadership class is going to be to analyze leadership from the perspective of a social and a cultural construct. Now, I know many of you have probably already talked about what a social construct is, what a cultural construct is in many other classes. Actually, I believe maybe in your first or second semester where you were taking all these A and D classes, where you were joined with classmates from many other areas. I believe these are topics that you already talked about. But I'm going to ask you today to keep an open mind, okay? Before I begin, I also want to get back to your essays. I was amazed. There were 2 or 3 essays that almost brought tears to my eyes. And let me see if I remember well. I don't want to be unfair, but I remember Rosaema, your essay was amazing. I think I even wrote down in the feedback that it was amazing. There were many others, Paula Isabel. I believe I also replied to you, Frida. Oh my God, yours was also wonderful. I'm not saying that the other ones are not, but this was our first exercise writing a reflective essay, and it was very clear to me who actually went into the instructions and the guidelines about how to write a reflective essay. It's not very easy. Actually, we are so used to writing regular essays that when we are asked to give our opinion, sometimes it's hard. I want to make sure, guys, that everybody is on the same, like we are on the same line, we're on the same track. A reflective essay is not a summary. And unfortunately, many of you just wrote a summary, okay? A reflective essay is not a summary. Writing a summary requires certain skills, requires, of course, certain abilities, which is, as the word says, summarizing information, synthesizing information in a way that you can present in a one-page writing the most important facts of something, in this case of the topics that we discussed last week. However, that is not the purpose of a reflective essay. If you haven't been able to read the guidelines of a reflective essay, please go back to our resources section in our virtual classroom and do so. Because since this was our first exercise, I gave all the greatest grade, the highest grade possible, just because you did. This was the first time you were writing a reflective essay. However, for the upcoming reflective essays that we will be writing, okay, for the following weeks, I will actually add more information to the guidelines on how to write a reflective essay, because I will not be giving 10s to everyone. If what you're writing is a summary, you might get a 6, an 8, because that is not the purpose of a reflective essay, okay? In a reflective essay, you must express your own opinion, your own reflections, what you're thinking. Sometimes, and I think that's why I mentioned Paola, I think Frida and Rosaema, because in the case of Rosaema, she went and researched something that she remembered, something that she linked with one of the topics that we talked about last week, and she actually added to the reflective essay some information that she researched, but she used that information to reflect on something personal. That is the purpose of reflective essay. Again, Paola, Frida, I believe somebody else did, but I cannot remember any. Oh, Dani, I believe, I think. I'm sorry if I don't remember exactly the name of the students who did so, but I always give you feedback. And many of you, actually somebody talked about how these leadership situations that we were talking about last week, they actually put it in practice at home with his brother, which was a wonderful reflective essay. I really enjoyed reading that because that is it. Bringing the information, the facts that we analyze in class and try to bring those into your real life, into your real experiences, into your real opinions. And a lot of you did so. So congratulations. But I do believe half of the students only wrote an essay. Another, or a summary. Another comment that I have for you also, and some feedback. So if you are not sure if you did it correctly, maybe take some notes so you're sure that for the future chances we have to write a reflective essay, you actually add. Always begin with an introduction, remember, the body of your reflection, and always finish with a conclusion, all right? Something else, not all of you read the instructions of the assignment either. How could I tell? Because the instructions were try to define from your vision and your perspective, are leaders born or are leaders made? And again, half of the group actually achieved adding that information to their reflective essays. But I could tell the other half didn't read the instructions well. Okay, you only wrote a summary. Again, I'm not saying that is wrong, but if we're learning here to develop skills, the first skills we need to develop is to read carefully instructions and to be able to follow instructions precisely as we're asked. Okay, and this is something important that will help you in the future when you become professionals. You might say, whatever. And me as a teacher, I can give you all tens. That's not the point here. The point is I cannot give you the highest grade if you were not able to read the instructions and follow the instructions. Because then maybe you achieved something good, yes, but you didn't develop a skill, which is one of the most important skills you're here in college to develop, which is read carefully, take notes, make sure the goal and the objective of your assignment is clear to you. If it's not clear, ask me. You have my WhatsApp, send me a private message. Teacher, it is not very clear exactly what I have to achieve or what I have to do. If the instructions are not clear, you're free to ask me, but just make sure you achieve the goal of the assignment, okay? Today's session, I'm going to ask you to keep a very open mind because we're going to get very philosophical. I promise it's going to be fun. But as one of my former bosses will say, we're going to get a little bit crazy with many of the because when we talk about a social construct or when we talk about a cultural construct, we're talking about philosophy. We're talking about different perspectives, different views, and how sometimes, and these are some theories, okay? Sometimes reality doesn't even exist. Reality is what we make of reality, okay? So this is going to be one of the objectives for today's class. Also, it is very important for me to explain that take notes as we advance because this week on Thursday, you will not have any homework. Your homework assignment will be done from today until Thursday. So this is changing. It's very clear that you're aware of this. Your assignment for the week will be done either tonight or tomorrow. Your deadline will be Thursday before 9 o'clock a.m. because we will use the information that you will produce, okay, during your assignment for our next class, okay? So it's very important you're aware of that. Again, I'm repeating, you will not have a homework assignment over the weekend, which is great also because I believe all your other classes now are giving you a lot of assignments now for the weekend. You will not have an assignment for intercultural leadership class this weekend, okay? But you will have a little small assignment from today until Thursday, okay? So we'll get into that in a minute. It's very simple. It's very easy. You don't have to panic or you will not spend hours doing it. It has to do mostly with thinking and analyzing, okay? Before we begin, are there any questions? Oh, we're fine? Okay, perfect. Well, you have the presentation in your virtual classroom. Let me start sharing. Hold on, hold on. Da, 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 da. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to turn off my camera, okay, to make sure that you can actually see the presentation. And we're actually today in this class, different to other classes that we have had in the future. We're not going to watch TED Talk videos in our class. However, we're going to watch two little videos that are going to help us understand things. What is our objective for the class? Our objective is to encourage you to think of leadership not as something which is imposed on people within an organization, but as something which humans grow up with and then seek out as an innate part of a human being. Why is it important, guys, that we have this base? In many of your essays, I believe Elisa Orozco and somebody else, two more people wrote about this. To analyze leadership, most of the information we have up there, and even many of the videos we have been watching, come from a Western perspective. Okay. And I think it's very important that we take that in consideration. Many of you actually concluded as well that it depends on this time in which the idea of leadership developed. Many of you also talked about how it depended on the country, the culture, society, etc. That is wonderful. But do not forget that most of the information we have comes from the Western world. And many of you, that's why I'm thinking, Elisa, somebody else did, they actually questioned, like, is it fair to ask ourselves and answer these questions based only on the perspective of the Western world? And I think this is a wonderful topic that we'll be talking about today. Okay, first, what is a social construct? What is a cultural construct? As we have done before, I'm going to share the video. Okay, we have done it before. I'm going to share it in our chat as we have done it before. And this is 2 minutes and 45. Let me stop sharing so the image so I can actually, hold on, hold on. Okay, okay, I'm going to share this video, and as we have done before, each one of you remember to click accept. Okay, I'm also going to write it in the chat so you have access to the video. And remember, you also have the link to the video in your online synchronic classroom. Okay, in a minute, when I say go, we're going to be watching this video. Remember to turn on also the closed captions so you can read as you listen. Okay, this is from Khan Academy. And take your notes, okay? When we talk about a social construct or a cultural construct, try to keep an open mind. When we finish this little exercise, which we're beginning our class with, we'll come back and then we'll try to analyze first, what is this social construct idea? What is this cultural construct idea? And how it relates to the idea of leadership. Are the instructions clear? Thumbs up? Yes? Very good. Okay, so I'm going to go silent. I'm going to be here, okay? Start watching the video. It's 1:19, 1:20. So I will give you until 1:24, and then we'll come back to discuss, okay? All right, start watching your video now. Go. Okay, guys, most of us are finished. Um, these ideas are not easy to understand, and actually, I will go in a minute into. Let me stop sharing the multimedia. I will go into explaining a little bit more and getting a little bit deeper, okay, into these ideas. Write down in your chat, please, some of the phrases, words, or ideas that caught your attention from the video on social construction. Again, I don't expect you to understand the whole idea right now. We'll go into that in a minute because it's a complex idea to understand. But write down in your chat, yes, reality is subjective. Brute facts and institutional facts. People give the meaning to things. Oh, I'm going to cry. Thank you. Things exist because we give them a reality. Value is assigned by humans. It is subjective. Yes, it's a very important word we'll be talking about today. Thoughts of humans are not fundamental, create reality, okay? Reality depends on language. I know that caught my attention too. And habits. Actually, Elisa, it said that there's one part of the whole theory that actually says that reality exists just based on our language. If we were not able to communicate ourselves, we will not give meaning to what is around us, and therefore the existence of the things that are around us will not be able to be explained. It's very interesting. It's a very interesting theory. Thank you. Let's see. Some things exist because we give them value. Yes. Okay, the rest of you guys, I cannot see. Astrid, have you shared already? Paola, Paulina, yes. Jaime Alejandro, Rosa, Frida, Elisa, Eduardo. Astrid, thank you. I do wonder a lot of times that we have no idea to prove the reality. I know these questions are wonderful because there are actually many philosophical theories that actually says, and then again, I told you I'm going to get all, crazy matrix thing, but it's very interesting. It is a whole existential crisis when I think about it. It is, yes. The rest of you, Sarah, Alonso, the ones who haven't grant, I know you just got here. It's okay, don't worry, but it's a whole, yes. As you are getting the idea, please, I need you to write down your thoughts. Arlette, I don't think I have read your opinion on the video. Yes, I'm missing Arlette. I'm missing Alonso. I am missing, thank you. Social construction to help us give value to things in order to exist. It's actually very, very interesting. Thank you so much. Now, I'm going to go into, again, I'm going to stop my video so I can share the presentation. And let's continue. Thank you, Alonso. Social constructivism is a theory that knowledge in many aspects of the world around us. Yes, they try to explain many things around us. Let me see. Okay. We'll go back into this in a minute. Wait a minute. No, where is my presentation? Oh, here it is. Okay. Let me close this. Okay, so this what you can see right now, okay, is kind of what a social construct or a cultural construct is. It's how we can interpret, okay, what is around us, and actually we give them the value. We actually call them reality, as many of you wrote in the chat. And again, I told you, I believe you have already talked about many of these topics, maybe in your in some of your basic semesters, when you were talking about society and something, and all these classes that you took. I believe these are very interesting topics to talk about. Now, let me advance a little bit to what a social construct is. A social construct, and again, just take notes of the keywords, is a concept of perception of something. Again, the keyword is perception. And as Astrid, you said, how can we prove that what we perceived actually exists? Okay. A concept of perception of something based on the collective views developed and maintained within a society or a social group. It is a social phenomenon or convention originating within and cultivated by society or a particular social group as opposed to existing inherently or naturally. Why did I want to mention this? Because even the video said that one of the criticisms that the idea of social constructivism in as a theory is that they do not take natural phenomenon in consideration, saying, for example, okay, how you perceive a tornado. So if you don't perceive the tornado, it doesn't exist. Or the sun and, and the earth going around the sun. And if you don't perceive it, then it doesn't exist. But it did exist even before humans existed. So we may not get the answers here. I don't know if you have heard, guys, this idea saying if a tree falls in the middle of the forest and there's nobody there to hear how the tree falls, does it make a sound? How do we prove and how do we know it makes a sound if there's nobody there to hear? So if there's nobody there to hear the sound of the tree falling, does it really make a sound or is it just us that make the sound real? Again, these are very philosophical questions. I know I told you, keep an open mind. Okay. Now, what or how do we relate these ideas to the idea of leadership? And now it's going to make sense why your teacher Ada is talking about all these crazy ideas. Okay. There is a reason, there is a point, there is an objective. First, so if we take in consideration that a social and a cultural construct are how we perceive things, and again, reading many of your essays helped me actually prepare the class for today. So, what is a leader? Is a leader a combination of traits and characteristics? Because many of you talked about that in your essays, and many of you said, I think you can develop them. Okay, and many of you also said, only a few of them actually said that you were born with some traits already. But most of you actually agreed on the fact that most of these characteristics and skills can be developed through time. Another question that caught me is, then is a leader a creation of his surroundings? And this is exactly why analyzing the word leadership as a social construct is so important. Many of you wrote in your essays that this idea of leadership that we have depended on the society in which the idea of leadership developed. You also said that in the past, remember when we saw all this history of leadership and all these past leaders and how the characteristics they had were different from many of the utopic and sometimes even perfect characteristic of a leader that they should have nowadays. You see how the idea has evolved? So who creates this idea of a leader, Next question, is he or she a real entity or just an image that everybody else has created around him or around her? Start preparing, guys. I'm going to give you the microphone in a minute because I need to hear from you this. Are leaders really the leaders we assume they are, or is this the idea we have of them? For example, many of you talked about Obama in your essays. Many of you talked about Mandela. Many of you talked about Martin Luther King, okay, as some of the examples that we talked about in the past classes. And my question, I'm not saying they're not leaders. I'm not saying that. But how objective is our image of a leader when we are actually basing our ideas on history, videos? Because, I mean, I don't know Obama, and I never had the chance to meet Martin Luther King, or Hitler, or all these characters that we have been talking about in the past. Is the idea of leadership the same to everyone? How if we're talking about the fact that a social cultural construct is subjective. If it is subjective, then it depends on the eyes of the human actually seeing this person. I'm going to give you the microphone for a minute. Let me stop sharing. We're going to continue, of course. We haven't stopped. As I told you before, I need you to keep a very open mind because these are very interesting topics. And the idea is not for you to memorize things, but to start connecting for this week the idea of a leader, the idea of leadership. Is it real? How real is it? Because many of you wrote in your essays, and that is wonderful, and I applaud your efforts to become a better leader. Many of you said that in your essays, and I'm so proud of you. Many of you said, I believe I already have some traits, some characteristics, which I agree with you. I would like to develop more this, but my question to you is why? Why would you like to develop more skills? Why would you like to develop more characteristics? Okay, yes, but why? What is it that moves you? I'm going to give you a microphone because I know many ideas are going through your head and I need to hear from you what's going through your head. Elisa, go ahead first. What goes through your mind? And then I'll go to Daniela and then I'll go to Jesus Eduardo. Go, Elisa.
The reason why I want to learn more skills, especially the one about leadership, it's because I've been working with kids lately, but I've gotten in the bad part of it. I've been talking with kids which have had a rough life, and I think that in this sector there is people with a lot of potential, but they are still afraid of the consequences. So I see that they need someone or something to actually start a better change for the kids. So I want to be that leader.
You already are, Elisa. But yes, thank you. And actually, you're just talking about some of the things we'll continue talking about in a minute. Danny, what goes through your head, through your mind with all these ideas of leadership as a social construction, as a cultural construction, about these questions that we showed?
Well, I think that society didn't teach us how to be a leader, always teach us how to follow other people. So we have to really now start doing things for ourselves, and also I know that sometimes we have to follow other people, but we have to I forget the word, darnos cuenta, we are realize that we can be leaders, but even if we are leaders, sometimes we are gonna follow people. But the fact that you're a leader and you have the skill to be a leader is gonna help you in your real life, social life, but also at your work with your friends. I think in every I forgot the word, but everywhere.
That's great, Danny. Thank you. Jesus Eduardo, what are your thoughts about all these philosophical questions? And then I'll go to Paola Isabel, and then I'll go to Arlette. Yes, Jesus Eduardo.
When you talk about society, I just thought to Aristotle that said that the man is a social animal. So I studied many things about these philosophical articles, and when they talk about the human, they say that the human exists for the society and the society exists for the human. So when we think about it, that the man is looking for leadership, it's not only that, it's the people that doesn't know how to use these skills or how to leader. It's them sign a social contract, like said Hobbes. So they give the power to someone else to guide them. So I don't know, it's my thoughts.
That is actually what I want. Perfect. Beautiful, my dear Jesus Eduardo. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Paula Isabel, go ahead, and then I'll go to Arlette, and then I'll go to Paulina Pantoja. We cannot hear you. No, sorry. It's like, you know what? It appears like you don't have a microphone. It doesn't, the icon for your microphone, it does not appear on the screen. But don't worry, Paula. I'll come back to you while you fix your microphone. I'll go to Arlette, I'll go to Paulina, and I'll come back to you, Paula, while you fix your microphone, okay? Yes, Arlette, go ahead. What are your thoughts?
Teacher, teacher, are you hearing me?
Yes, go ahead,
me?
go ahead. Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
I'm a little bit lost. I don't know what I have to answer.
Okay, what we're sharing, Arlette, I'll come back to you again. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go to Paulina and everybody else. I'll come back to you, but I will ask again. What we're doing is sharing our notes on the video of social construct,
Oh,
sharing our ideas. What are we thinking? We're also sharing, I'm going to share again, okay, what we have in the presentation. We're also sharing these ideas, these questions about what is a leader and its relationship with the philosophical concepts that we just analyzed. What are your thoughts? What is a leader? Is a leader a combination of traits and characteristics? Like what goes through your head? What are your notes? What are you reflecting about? But I'll come back to you in a minute. Don't worry. Paulina, go ahead.
Well, I think that we have an idea about a leadership. A leader needs to have like some characteristics, and I think like maybe in my case, I can think I'm not like a leader because I I don't have like these characteristics specifically, but I think like I can improve, and always you can learn from another person. Like I think Daniela said, like you always like follow other person and you can learn from someone else.
Thank you, Paulina. Yes. Yes, here we go. Sorry. Thank you, Paulina. Yes, I agree. I do not agree at 100% that you don't have these skills because as we advance in the course, you will see that you have many more than the ones you realize right now. But we'll do that again. Arlette, were you able to fix your microphone? Okay. I'm sorry, not Arlette. Sorry. I think it was somebody. Paula Isabel, you were trying to fix your microphone. If it's not, don't worry. Arlette, do you think you can share now? Oh, Paula Isabel, we can hear. I think, well, it looks like, yes, go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. Fine. This reminds me a lot of my semiotics class, semiotica, and yeah, it has a lot to do with that. For me, as everything we know, a leader is a concept created by human in order to identify that same concept, to be able to understand the world that's around us, we tend to create those concepts. But also, I think that
Wonderful.
okay, I was going to say that can be developed too.
You just said something so important, for which I have an answer again. Do we create the idea of a leader in order for us to also understand the world around us? Is that how we label sometimes things? Is this something we use in our language to label this idea of leadership to try to understand ourselves also and to understand those around us? Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful reflection. Yes, Arlette, do you think you can share now? And then after Arlette, I'll go to Alonso Mejia. Yes, Arlette, go.
I think as individual said that uh, we we make a social construct based on what we see, and it's the same for the leadership. The leadership will be not the same for everyone because uh, everyone has a different way to perceive the world.
Beautiful, Arlette. And actually, you just jumped into some of the another theories that we'll be talking about in a minute. Yes, Alonso, what are your thoughts? Please share. Thank you, Arlette.
I guess that the leadership is very important in other sense, such as I am a personal trainer, and it is really important motivate to my clients and for to help them to grow, not just physically but mentally too.
Alonso, I think you have a wonderful, wonderful job because actually what you do has so much meaning as a human being to help develop others, just like Elisa was saying, helping these kids who were not maybe as privileged as we are. And I think what you guys are doing, you already have all these skills. So don't you think or don't you assume that you don't have the skills. You do have them. You are already leaders, but we are here also to try to understand more about ourselves through all these concepts. Thank you very much for sharing, Alonso. I'll go back to the ones who didn't participate. Don't worry, Sarah, Erica, I'll go back to you later on. Otherwise, we will not advance. What we're going to talk about now is the need for the idea of leadership. And actually, I'm going to touch in many of the concepts that many of you mentioned, okay? The need for leadership. Do we have this need? And again, it's in quote in between quotations because it's a question. I don't have an answer. As a society, as a culture, as a human being, do we have the need for the idea of leadership? Let's see what the theory has to tell us. When you think about the question, why do we need leaders? You may think that we need leaders because it helps us to organize organizations. For example, a country needs a head of state, or an organization needs a CEO, etc. But actually, the need for leadership is much more natural and human than that. First of all, my question to you, why do we need leaders? I'm so glad, as I already mentioned, that many of you are looking forward to develop your leadership skills through this class. That's beautiful. But as I believe Danny said, or somebody said, we also need to be followers because there's no way we need balance, and we cannot be leaders all the time. We will need to be followers at certain moments, certain times of our lives, and even in different circumstances during our normal lives, right? But it's actually very simple. And you know this, you have seen it in many other classes, okay? This is nothing new, the theory of Maslow, which is the theory of basic needs. If we go to understand that humans need to cover basic needs, and we're going to talk about the need of leadership, well, it is interconnected with Maslow's theory of need, which is, the basic needs, of course, are physiological. Then we go to the safety needs. Then we go to love and belonging. Then we go, of course, to esteem. And finally, we go to self-actualization. So if we go to the base, why do we need leaders to begin with if our basic necessity is water, shelter, clothing, reproduction, safety, etc.? Let's advance. The first one is the need to survive. The need to survive, which is innate and natural, helps us or guides us or leads us into developing this idea of having a leader to follow. And we didn't even realize this because we were children, okay? Can somebody help me read? Erika, can you help me read, please?
Yes. The need to survive. The most fundamental human need is to stay alive. As children, we see our parents and guardians as leaders, showing us right from wrong, teaching us how to look after ourselves. Once we reach early adulthood and are ready to leave home, we will have acquired enough knowledge to keep ourselves alive and stay healthy. Additionally, in our teens, we often rebel against our parents as we start to see them less and less as leaders and more as autocrats.
Thank you so much, Erica. And this is how, from being followers when we're children and we follow what our parents tell us, because otherwise we wouldn't have survived, right? As it says there, that's why when we are teenagers, young adults, we don't want to follow them anymore because we are ourselves now not 100% dependent on them to survive. You know, maybe we depend on them, I don't know, the house, maybe food, maybe if you already work. The more independent you become, the less you will need the leadership of your parents or the guidance of your parents. And that's why sometimes the first instinct is like, reject what parents have to say. But the first need to have a leader is survival. And we all did this. And even for those of you saying, I do not have these traits and characteristics, I have a comment for you. You're going to be a mom or a dad someday. And guess who's going to follow your lead? Your children. So you will inevitably be a leader in someone's life. So don't think less of yourself. You will actually have a wonderful job as leaders of these young generations. Those of you who feel being a parent is something you want to do, I applaud you and I encourage you to do so, because my students, I know when you become parents, you're going to be wonderful parents because I know you. And I know you're going to be wonderful parents, but you need to be aware of all these concepts in order to be a parent who is aware, you know? So they need to survive. When college, let's talk about when you're in college, when we are right now. We will typically go to college, enter the workplace, or perhaps go on an adventure of a lifetime. That creates a new set of challenges that we haven't encountered before, and we're not sure how to deal with them. So, for example, even though I wish I could tell you all your teachers are your leaders, I think all your teachers, we attempt to be your guide because, I mean, we have the topics we guide you into, but not all of your teachers are leaders, right? As we will advance and we will see, being a leader is not only being the one in charge of organizing a class, okay? Let's advance. So we seek new leaders to show us how to behave, what to do, and what results to expect. These leaders could be friends, lecturers, or an immediate boss. And you may not think of these people as leaders in your own mind, but in effect, you seek these people out to guide you and keep you safe. So for example, if you go to a new job, if you go to a new work, Alonso, who taught you to be a personal trainer? Were you born with this ability on how to be a personal trainer, or did you have a mentor?
I don't know. From when I started, to the gym, I love it. Help the people to be strong, and therefore I like do it. And
But for
to
example, Alonso, did you have a teacher, a mentor, somebody you look up to, somebody who you saw and you said, oh, I want to be a trainer like him or like her? Like, do you have a role model?
oh yeah, I wanna be like Callum Von Moger. I don't know if you know him.
So those people in your life are leaders because those are role models. Those are people you look up to. Those people, you always will have the image of leaders above you, always, all the time. Okay. And again, having a higher position or somebody being your boss, that doesn't mean that person is a leader. But in your case, Alonso, there you go. You have somebody to look up to. So those leaders will guide you. But for example, why is this related to the survival instinct? Because you're developing right now your professional skills, okay? And you keep learning. The day you stop learning, you're lost. But you keep learning. I bet you watch videos, you watch tutorials, you watch or read books related to leadership, to how to be, a trainer, etc. It requires constant preparation, okay? And so we will always have the image of leadership. Okay,
Ada, can I share something?
please go ahead, Daniela. Go.
Because I think it's really relate what are we talking about now. Because I have a work now, and my boss, I think she's not a leader, but my ex-boss, I don't know, my my ex-boss, she was a leader because she made me feel like I wanna keep doing that. Like I want to be like in fashion, and she told me everything about the things that are in the fashion industry. And right now I'm in the I forgot to say that word, but in other industry, and in the news industry, I will say that, and it's totally different. And even though it's very important for my career to always be aware of what is going in the world, like she makes me like, I don't want to read the news today, because she always is like, you have to do it, but in very different way. And I think it's really, really important that sometimes uh, we have to also learn to be a leader. I don't know. I just want to tell you this because it's really important, and it's about the class and everything.
I actually love it. Guys, whenever you have things to share, please do share. Again, this class is not me telling you what to think or telling you what to learn. It's having material enough material, and if this material comes from you, even better, having enough material for us to reflect and actually grow in these ideas. Okay, so thank you, Dani. Yes, being your boss or being a boss or having a position, a higher position at a company, organization, etc., that doesn't mean you're a leader. Okay, and that's exactly some of the things that we have been talking about in the past weeks, and we will continue seeing in the following weeks. Okay, the second need for leadership is the need for purpose. I'm going to give you 1 minute to read silently and take notes of the keywords. Okay, go. So as I told you before, one of the reasons why we follow somebody is because that somebody helps us, as somebody said it, helps us understand our role in this world around us. I think it was Paula Isabel, I think. When you have somebody to look up to, when you have a role model, when you have somebody to follow, this person you follow, these ideas, which can be religious, philosophical, professional, emotional, you can follow your boyfriend, your wife, your husband, a friend of yours, uh, the leader of your church, your mom, your dad. In my case, for example, I follow my dad because my dad is the one who actually introduced the Buddhist religion into my family. So not only he introduced the Buddhist ideas in my family and ideology, but now he's a professor of a Buddhist philosophical like school, you can say. So I follow some of the teachings of my dad now that he has become a professor of all these Buddhist ideologies. And this is something that it gives meaning to my life. So I decide to follow him. This leads me to another question. If leaders didn't have people to follow them, then they wouldn't be leaders, right? Am I right here? Again, I'm going to ask this question. If a leader didn't have anybody following his or her ideas, will he still be a leader?
I think that leaders.
Go ahead, share Grant. What do you think?
Uh, Being a good leader, you start by being a good leader of yourself, meaning you lead a good life of an example and for how you carry yourself. and that goes on to being able to serve others and such.
Thank you, Grant. Being a leader, are you listening to me? Thank you. Sorry. Thank you, Grant. I think this is wonderful. Being a leader to yourself. Actually, I'm going to write this down because I hadn't thought about it. Hold on. A leader to yourself. I had not thought about this in this way. Honestly, I always thought that if you didn't have followers, you were not a leader. But I do agree with the fact that first you have to be your own follower, your own leader, your own, your own role model. Yes, thank you, Grant, for sharing that idea. Thank you.
Have you heard that like what like Jordan Peterson says about that? Do you ever listen to Jordan Peterson? Yeah, he talks about like cleaning your room, like kind of actually literally and kind of metaphorically. Like if you really want to be a leader and change the world and start a business and such, like start with your own. He says start with picking up your own shit. Like if you don't have your own shit together as a person and you can't lead your own life well, then how are you going to expect other people to follow you?
Grant, can you write the name of this leader in the chat so we'll get his name and we can actually Google him or look for more information in the future? Could you do that, Grant, please?
I can do that. He's kind of controversial, but I can do that.
Oh, that's fine. We love controversy because from controversial topics, we get the opportunity to also again, and I'll go back to again Paula Isabel's idea, try to find our place in this world around us. So Paula Isabel, I'm going to quote you a lot now. Thank you so much. Let's finish with the last one so we can go to our 10-minute break, guys, because we still have many things to talk about. The last one of the needs for leadership, and this is number 3, is the need for esteem. After our basic survival needs are met and our need for love and friends, the next need is the need for self-esteem. And I think this has to do a little bit with what you were saying, Grant. Work on yourself first. This desire to be successful is natural. As successful people are more likely to have a good job, ensuring their safety is secure, and also more likely to attract and keep a good mate or a good partner, whatever, increasing the chance of maintaining a sense of purpose. So one of the reasons why we have the need for leadership is because we also want to feed our ego. We want to be called successful, which actually is going to be the topic for the second part of the class. If the word leadership or leader is so subjective, now how are we going to talk then about success without being so subjective? What is success and what does it mean to each one of us? That's going to be part number 2 of this class. It's 2 o'clock, guys. Let's take that 10-minute break. And when we come back, like in a soap opera, most interesting topics to be discussed and analyzed, okay? Thank you. See you in 10 minutes. Bye.